You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. And it's Friday, so it's time for our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, with Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. Senator Sanders, welcome back.
Good to be with you, Tom.
So, a lot going on in the world today. Where do you want to start?
Well, a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in my little state of Vermont. We're on Easter break now, so I have the opportunity of doing what I love to do, and that is get around the state. And I want to tell listeners just a little bit about some of what I did in Vermont, because what is happening here is happening in every state in the country. Earlier in the week, I went up to the very northern part of this state, in Newport, a few miles away from the Canadian border, and I talked to kids at the high school up there, North Country High School, and then I went to a state college not all that far away, Linden State College. And not surprisingly, what I heard from young people is their very serious concerns about the high cost of college. These are kids who don't have a lot of money up in northern Vermont, who would like to go to college in many instances, worried about whether they're going to be able to afford to go, and worried about what kind of loans they get out of school with. Went to the Linden State College, talked to a young man there. He said, well, I'm going to leave this state college $60,000 in debt. And another guy piped up at the back of the room, and he said, well, I'm hoping to go to a medical school, want to be a doctor, and I will leave school several $100,000 in debt. And, of course, this is going on all over the country, and the reality is that we're having more and more working-class kids saying, you know what, I guess I'm not going to go to college. I'd love to go. I think I have something to offer, but I can't do it. I don't want to get out of school deeply in debt. So this is clearly a crisis of enormous consequence which has to be dealt with. The young people who are leaving school are being really shackled with these terrible, terrible debts. And we hear from them, every week I hear from one or another student. They're forced to go into professions that they do not necessarily want to go into because they have to pay off the debt, etc. And then the other half of the problem is not only young people in college and graduate school in debt, then you have working-class families saying, I work, my husband works, and how am I going to get my kid a good preschool, into a good preschool, good child care? Because that's outrageously expensive. So those are areas that we have got to take a giant look at. We should recognize that you have countries like Denmark, Finland, France, Norway, Scotland, Germany, and many others who provide free college education for their young people because they understand, and it's not just young people, they understand that having a strong educational system which allows anybody in the country to get the education they need is in the best interest of that country, especially in a very, very competitive global economy. So that's one thing that I saw, again, just getting around Vermont, but it's certainly a national problem. On our website, Tom, on another issue, April 15th was tax day. On our website, sanders.senate.gov, we have a really interesting survey entitled Top 10 Corporate Tax Avoiders. And that list includes General Electric, Boeing, Verizon, Bank of America, Citigroup, Pfizer, FedEx, Honeywell, Merck, and Corning. And I want to say something a little bit about General Electric, because when we talk about oligarchy in America, and when we talk about this country moving away from a strong middle class and a democratic society where ordinary people have power, political power, to an oligarchy where the country is, much of the economy is owned by a handful of very, very wealthy corporate guys, and the political process as a result of Citizens United is moving in the direction of oligarchic control because, the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson and these other billionaires can spend huge sums of money on the political process, electing their people. But when I talk about that, I want to just focus on General Electric for a moment. I want to go back a good number of years where Jack Welch, who used to be the CEO of GE, who left with a huge golden parachute, I think to the tunes of well over $100 million. And he said, and I think you'll remember this, Tom, he said when people said, well, what about manufacturing? What do you do? He said, well, if he had his druthers, every manufacturing plant that GE owned would be on a barge. Do you remember that quote?
Yeah, I do.
And what he meant by that is you would then take that barge to the lowest wage country in the world.
Right.
And in a sense, that's what General Electric has done. They've downsized substantially in the United States, moved a lot of jobs to China, Mexico, many other countries. But in terms of taxes, from 2008 to 2013, while GE made close to $34 billion in U.S. profits, it did not pay any federal income taxes, and in fact, it received a total tax refund of more than $2.9 billion from the IRS. In other words, GE's effective U.S. corporate income tax rate over this 6-year period was minus 9%. How's that?
That's like living and being paid 9% by the government.
Right.
9% of billions to do. That's incredible.
I mean, it goes on, and then you have to remember that Jeff Immelt and these other corporate tycoons sit on the business roundtable. And a year or so ago, they came to Washington and they said, "Well, I think you should cut or raise the retirement age for Social Security and Medicare because we have a serious deficit."
Yeah,
can you imagine that?
I remember.
I mean, the chutzpah to go about doing that, and of course. Immelt has a retirement account at GE worth an estimated $59 million and made $19 million in total compensation last year. And I use that, that's GE, and you got Boeing and Verizon and all these other guys. To talk about this is what oligarchy is about. It is very wealthy people who choose not to pay taxes in this country, who choose to move jobs abroad, who in many cases for the workers they still have in the United States, they try to push down their wages, take away health care. And then they, through their very powerful lobbying in Washington, they say, oh, well, gee whiz, we have a deficit problem and we should raise the retirement age, which is what the Business Roundtable said. And Business Roundtable is the organization made up of all of the major CEOs of large corporations. And their great, brilliant idea was to raise the retirement age of Social Security to 70 and Medicare eligibility to 70 as well. That's called oligarchy. That is the wealthy and the powerful making out like bandits, having enormous power, and then continuing their war against working families. We did something, a fellow on my staff did a great job, and when we talk about oligarchy, kind of found out, what many people already knew, but got some more details, that in terms of the Koch brothers, what is not widely known is that David Koch ran for vice president of the United States in 1980 on the Libertarian Party. What is very interesting is to read that party's platform and in a very frightening way to understand to what degree the Koch brothers have taken this country to the extreme right. In 1980, when Koch ran, that party received 1% of the vote, and it was seemed to be kooky and kind of out of touch with reality. If you look at what they talked about in 1980 and where the Republican Party is today, what was right-wing extremist in 1980 is now kind of mainstream Republican in 2014. Let me just very briefly mention some of the planks they had in 1980. They urged the repeal of federal campaign finance laws so that billionaires like the Koch brothers could own the political process. Well, guess what? We are moving rapidly in that direction. That's what Clarence Thomas wrote recently in his McCutcheon decision, and that is what the chairman of the Republican National Committee wants to do right now. They favor the abolition of Medicare and Medicaid programs. Well, if you read the Ryan budget, what you'll find out is they're moving in that direction as well. Why don't we pick this up after the break?
Yep. Okay, 15 minutes past the hour. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Check out Senator Sanders' Facebook page and his website over at sanders.senate.gov. Welcome back. Senator, did you want to finish that thought?
Yeah, just did. They talked about back in 1980 calling for the abolition of Medicare and Medicaid. And if you read the Ryan budget, that is clearly the direction we're looking at. Ryan budget, it's massive cuts in Medicaid and basically ending Medicare as we know it. Back in 1980, David Koch's Libertarian Party called for the repeal, and I quote, of the fraudulent, virtually bankrupt, and increasingly oppressive Social Security system, end of quote. Well, we got a lot of Republicans who certainly buy that today. They want the abolition of the governmental postal service. They want that gone. Back in 1980, they opposed all personal and corporate income taxation, including capital gains tax.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. Now, the point about it is not how crazy they were in 1980, but to what degree their billions of dollars spent in all kinds of organizations has kind of transformed the Republican Party from a moderate conservative party, center-right party, into a right-wing extremist party. And that is the major political, most significant political reality of today, that transformation, and of taking the whole country to the right. And these guys, they keep moving. They're going to be pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into congressional elections, into presidential elections. And if they get their way, and the Supreme Court rules that there are no limits on campaign finance, they will, to a very significant degree, one family, worth somewhere between $80 or $100 billion, will control the political process. Okay, we've gone over my usual stay here, so let's get to some questions.
Okay, fine. Let's see here. Paul, watching Free Speech TV in South Lyon, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Senator, I was against you running for president because I remember Ralph Nader running in 2000, and the result was 8 years of suffering with Republicans in the White House. But I changed my mind. 2 years ago, the Republican Freak Show had about 30 debates, and they just looked worse and worse. I think the opposite would be true if you debated your fellow progressives in the Democratic Party. The more people hear, it will be great for the whole country. If you run, will it be in the Democratic primary?
Well, Paul, that's a decision that I haven't made yet. But thank you very much for your thoughts. And I haven't decided if I'm going to run, and I haven't decided how I run. That's a decision I will be, an issue I will be discussing with friends all over the country. But the point that I make, that I've made repeatedly, is that at a time when the middle class of this country is disappearing, and we are moving, in my view, toward an oligarchic form of government, we need candidates who are not part of the old-fashioned establishment. We need candidates out there, and I'm not suggesting I'm the only one, but we do need people who are going to stand up for the working class and the middle class of this country and understand that if we do not make some very bold changes in what's going on in America, you're not going to have a middle class left, and you are going to live in a society where a few billionaires control the economy and the political process, and that surely is not what this country is supposed to be about.
Yeah. We just have 10 seconds, Bernie. Are you familiar with this new book by Thomas Piketty about capital in the 21st century?
I haven't read it, but a lot of folks are talking about it.
Yeah, we're trying to get him on. I just ordered a copy of it. I haven't read it yet either. I've read two summaries.
The thesis here is, and they do a lot of good research, is it's not only the rich are getting richer now, is that the richer are going to continue to get richer at the expense of the middle class and working families.
Yeah, unless we do something.
Yeah,
there you go. Senator Bernie Sanders with us, taking your calls right after the break. It's 20 minutes past the hour. Be sure to check out Bernie's website at sanders.senate.gov. We'll be right back. Past the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And it's our Brunch with Bernie hour, a national town hall meeting with the guy I think of as America's senator, Senator Bernie Sanders. And you're with us here, Senator?
I'm right here.
Okay. Peter in Media, Pennsylvania. Peter, you're on the air with Senator Sanders. Thanks for listening to Sirius Satellite Radio.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Senator Sanders. Thank you for taking my call. Senator, I want to ask if it would be possible, a simple idea that even if the idea is just proposed by progressives, it would help them win elections, and if it's actually executed, would help people win. And that is the concept of having congressional representatives and senators given the power of line item voting in any legislation. So therefore, a representative or a senator could vote for education or for health care without voting for the Bridge to Nowhere port that's added on to proposed legislation. Would it be possible even just to propose during campaigning, but actually institute line item voting for congressional representatives and senators?
Well, Peter, anyone can introduce anything that they want. I think the concern that you have is that very often, and this is absolutely true, that are important pieces of legislation that are supposed to be dealing with one issue, a lot of stuff gets tacked on. And I had that experience just last month. We introduced a comprehensive veterans bill, which was dealing with many of the serious problems facing our veterans community, had the support of virtually all of the veterans organizations out there. And, some of my Republican colleagues wanted to tack on, I think, sanctions against Iran onto a bill dealing with veterans issues. So you see this all of the time, and I think your point is well taken. I don't know if your solution is necessarily the best approach, but I think people get very frustrated when they see so much additional stuff and irrelevant stuff tacked on to a piece of legislation.
Lloyd in Lakeland, Florida. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, was that me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you, both of you guys, for what you're doing. I have a feeling, my question is, we got a lot of support listening to you guys. You're preaching to the choir. My question is, how do we get the majority of the choir that are not voting back to the booth, given the juggernaut that the Republicans are throwing into the elections? How are we going to do that?
Well, Lloyd, I think you are asking what we used to say was the $64 question. Probably a little bit more.
Now it's a $64 million question.
$64 million question.
Groucho's rolling over in his grave.
And I'll tell you what I think. Here's what you got. What today's Republican Party believes is that elections should be about billionaires being able to spend as much money as they want, and they are spending it. Koch brothers are already spending huge amounts of money all over this country. They will spend more. Sheldon Adelson had, as I think listeners will remember, a remarkable meeting in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago where he invited potential Republican candidates for president to come in and tell him what they would do for him. And if he liked them, he will support one of them and give them, I suppose, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's where American, quote-unquote, democracy is today. What is the antidote? What do we have to do? I think, Lloyd, that what we need to do, and this is not easy stuff. Trust me, it is not easy. It's a lot easier talking about it than doing it. But what we need is to develop a strong grassroots movement all over this country, focusing on a progressive agenda. I'll tell you something, Lloyd. It blows my mind that there are I think it's 24 states in the country where governors and legislatures have rejected Medicaid as part of the Affordable Care Act. And I would think that in all of those 24 states, Republican states, that people would say, I cannot believe that when I desperately need health insurance or my kids need health insurance, that you are telling me that you're not going to take the Affordable Care Act expansion of Medicaid, even though it costs the states nothing, zero, not a penny, for the first 3 years. Simply denying people the right to get health insurance for ideological and political reasons. And I would hope that in those 24 or so states, people would be standing up and say, we got to get rid of those governors, and we've got to get rid of those members of the state legislature.
Yeah. And these aren't, by the way, Senator, these are not even the, quote, welfare queens of Ronald Reagan. 100% of the people covered by the Medicaid expansion are working because you have to have an income to make more than the state Medicaid limit and less than the Obamacare limit. So 100% of these people who are being screwed by these governors are working people.
So, in answer to Lloyd, what we need is a progressive agenda. That should be the major issue. We also need to be talking about the need to the absolute imperative that we create millions of decent-paying jobs. Certainly we're better off economically today than we were 5 years ago when Bush left office. But the reality is that real unemployment today is close to 9%, youth unemployment close to 20%. We have to create millions of decent-paying jobs. We've got to raise the minimum wage. We have to deal with the issue of pay equity so that women do not make 70 or 75 cents of the dollar that men make. We have to raise, the minimum wage to a living wage. We've got to deal with, as I mentioned earlier, college affordability. A lot of issues out there. And we have got to rally the American people around that agenda and make sure that they're not voting for people who do not support that agenda.
Senator, just 15 seconds left. Best way to create jobs, trade policy?
The fastest
infrastructure?
way, the most practical way right now is a massive investment in infrastructure. And that is roads and bridges and water systems and wastewater plants and rail. You do that, you make the country more productive, and you create millions of jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Sanders taking your calls in our national town hall meeting here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be back with your calls for Senator Sanders right after the news here at the bottom of the hour. Be sure to check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov, and his Facebook page as well. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us. Our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator, you're still there with us?
I am right here.
I had forgotten to put you on hold. I have no idea what you were hearing. I hope it was okay. Joyce in Clinton, Iowa. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you, gentlemen, for taking my call. I understand that when the elections are in Florida this time, they won't let them use the washroom. Why can't a company that has porta potties, why can't they put them out for the people?
Did you see this story, Senator?
I did not.
In Miami-Dade County, where people were having to wait 6, 8, 10 hours in line to use the bathrooms, they announced earlier this week or late last week that in the upcoming elections in November, they are going to close all the bathrooms at these facilities. If you step out of line, you lose your place.
What can you say?
Yeah.
Sometimes...
it's all about making it harder to vote.
Yeah. Okay.
Bring an empty Coke bottle. I don't know what to say beyond that. Okay, Tom in Seattle, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
There could be all kinds of interesting protests.
Yes.
Against that action, huh?
Yeah, actually. That's a great one for guerrilla theater. Tom in Seattle, listening on KBCS, our Pacifica affiliate out there. Hey, Tom, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello. Thank you very much for taking my call. I'll try to be quick here. So, Senator Sanders, Chris Hedges, Lawrence Lessig, Thom Hartmann, Wendy Davis, all in the same room together. How do we do that? How do we improve, I want to say, communication, get us all linked up for a united front? On the other side, you got the Koch brothers, Citizens United, Americans for Prosperity, all talking to each other. And if you know where I'm going with this, then please. I just see that all of these issues that we have, whether it's $15 an hour, even climate change, which I think is probably the most important, and Keystone. I mean, all the notes that you were hitting on even the last news report here just a minute ago. All these things have in common getting money out of politics, and I don't. In my view, I just don't see things changing unless we can do that.
Okay, Tom, let's get Senator Sanders' thoughts on that.
I think Tom raises a number of issues, money in politics, which is huge. It is absolute huge. And as you have heard me say many, many times, Tom, out there I know people are concerned about the economy and the need to create jobs and the need to raise the minimum wage and pay equity for women. People are concerned about the need for a universal health care system, guaranteeing health care to all people. People are deeply concerned about educational issues, affordability of college. People are concerned about climate change. But as Tom of Washington just told us, all of these issues are absolutely tied to campaign finance, because right now, despite what the American people want, And poll after poll tells us very clearly the American people soundly reject this right-wing extremist ideology. And yet, because these billionaires have unlimited amounts of money to spend in elections and can provide strong support to their candidates, we may be moving in a direction that the American people really do not want us to go. And the question is, how do we turn that around? And the answer, to my mind, is that people must understand that we are in a huge struggle for the future of this country. Not participating in the political process is something that people just no longer have the luxury to do. They've got to roll up their sleeves and get involved, because the Koch brothers, Sheldon Adelson, and other billionaires, believe me, they understand the importance of politics. And if we're going to save the middle class of this country, or what's left of it, we've got to get involved as well.
And there are some groups that are pulling people together. On May 10th, Jim Hightower and me and John Nichols and Tom Hayden are going to be in Massachusetts. I'm going to be doing a book signing that night.
Be there?
Pardon?
Guess who else is going to be there?
Yeah, a certain famous senator.
I'll be there as well. Look,
right.
There are good things happening all over this country. I'm going to be in South Carolina and North Carolina in a couple of weeks. In North Carolina, you have that group.
Moral Mondays, yeah.
Moral Mondays, who are just doing an extraordinary job. If anyone interested, I will be in South Carolina on Friday, April 25th, 7:30 p.m. at the International Longshoremen's Hall in Charleston, South Carolina. But, Tom, that is the point. All over this country, you have groups fighting to overturn Citizens United, fighting hard to stop this Keystone Pipeline and to help us lower greenhouse gas emissions by transforming our energy system. You got huge numbers of people from one end of the country to the other. But I think what the caller was talking about is the need for us to begin to work together in a very coherent way, and that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. James in Lockport, Illinois. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, this is an honor to speak to you.
Well, thank you, James.
My question to you, first of all, the Republican Party is very good at, organizing and getting out their talking points, as you can see. And I think the Democrats actually are very poor at that. What I would like to see is the Democratic Party going out there before the midterm elections and actually touting the Republican record on what they've been doing. They always tout that they're the party of freedoms and liberties, and they go out there restricting voter rights, a woman's right to choose. And I was wondering if we could actually, I'd like to see the Democrats go out there and say, if you give us 2 years of no obstruction, let us show you where this country can go. Do you think I can count on you to get the Democrats in the Senate and the House to move in those kind of lines?
Well, this is an issue that I certainly agree with you on, but I think sometimes, and I hear this very, very often, and there's truth to what you're saying. But the other thing, James, that you have to appreciate, it's not that there are not some Democrats, not all. You got some progressive Democrats out there. I'm going to be in Minnesota shortly with Keith Ellison, who's chairman of the Progressive Caucus, who's out there all the time doing a great job. You have people like Rich Trumka, who's head of the AFL-CIO, out there all the time doing a great job. But you know what? You do not necessarily hear what they are saying because you got a media out there that is not particularly interested in reporting what they're saying. Tom, you may want to tell listeners what you and I chatted on about before we went on the air.
Oh, yeah.
When we talk about, people say, well, why don't I hear this? Well, you know what? You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Show, and Tom does a great job in telling you what's going on, and so do a bunch of other progressive radio talk show hosts. But 95% of talk radio is right-wing or extreme right-wing. Tom, why don't you tell people, if you don't mind, what you just read?
Well, this is an article that's up in Politico. It's called The Tea Party Radio Network by Ken Vogel and Mackenzie Wegner. And they just discovered that there's this very well-funded, billionaire-funded right-wing network that has been pouring money into right-wing talk show hosts. And let me just say for the record that nobody gives us money on this show, and to the best of my knowledge, any of the other progressive shows. But Sean Hannity in 2008 got $1.3 million, or in 2011, from Heritage. Mark Levin was paid $757,000 from the Koch brothers, Americans for Prosperity. The Senate Conservative Fund paid $427,000 to Simon & Schuster to buy copies of Mark Levin's book to turn it into a bestseller. The Heritage Foundation paid Rush Limbaugh $9.5 million. This is direct money directly to the talk show hosts.
Beyond what you're saying, as I understand, I haven't read the article, but what you're saying is above and beyond the very lucrative salaries that they make doing their show.
Right.
They're getting funded by the Koch brothers and other right-wing groups.
That's correct.
So what you really have then is a whole operation out there, which is not ostensibly talk radio. It is a propaganda arm for the Koch brothers and other right-wing extremists.
For the billionaires.
Yeah, and for the billionaire class. So when James says, well, he doesn't hear people talking about it, well, guess what? When 95% of talk radio is right-wing and there's direct funding coming from the Koch brothers, not to mention all of the corporate sponsors and everybody else, it is hard to get the word out. It is really hard to get the word out. And one of the issues that we have to focus on is media. I spend a lot of time, and my office does, on our website, and we now send out emails to, I don't know what it is, 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 people, because we think it's terribly important to discuss issues that are not being discussed in the mainstream media. And we hope people will pay attention to that. It's sanders.senate.gov. We have a website. But it's not just us. There are a lot of other groups and individuals and organizations out there that are doing a great job, and we've got to get the word out. But we're taking on the same old group of people who really want to control the discussion and have the American people move in a direction which the vast majority of the American people are opposed to.
Yeah. Let me just correct myself. Apparently most of this money is being funneled through these shows as sponsorship of the shows rather than just direct payments to the hosts.
Well,
so I suppose
that's another way of getting the same goal.
The effect is the same. I mean, if the money comes into the show.
And how many of these right-wing presidential candidates end up getting paid by Fox Television to be talk show?
Yeah.
To work on for Fox Television.
Yeah, it's a machine. It's just this giant machine. And, it's just I don't see any billionaires coming to me and saying, let me give you money to talk about raising my taxes. It hasn't happened. We've got
let's keep the questions coming.
Yep. Well, we got to take a break here. We'll be right back. It's 15 minutes before the hour. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour with Senator Bernie Sanders, our national town hall meeting here on the Thom Hartmann Program. And we'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And be sure to check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. And welcome back. Rick, watching Free Speech TV on the Dish TV satellite system in Austin, Texas. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, Tom. Good afternoon, Senator Sanders.
Hi, Rick.
I had a couple of comments about voter ID laws. Would it be possible for the federal government to set up an optional voter ID program, which could be run through post offices, the cost of which would be paid, billed back to states, and then pass an auxiliary law making it or requiring states to accept this optional federal ID as a form of identification for state voting.
Rick, that's an interesting idea, and I think we are in fact looking for ideas to counter what is really a major voter suppression effort on the part of the Republican Party. They want to make it difficult for people to vote. They're claiming there's massive voter fraud when in fact there is virtually none. And they're going to make it harder for people to get the ID cards that they need in order to vote. So that's an interesting idea, and let me think about it.
Shannon in Aurora, Colorado, watching on Dish Network on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, Senator Sanders. An honor to speak with you today.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about proportional representation. You know, the percentages of I remember the ISA hearings recently. 700 and some thousand voters per House representative. It seems to me that we might be better off to increase the House and Senate sizes in order to sort of diffuse the power that the lobby interests have in swaying the vote.
Shannon, your phone is falling apart here. I got to drop you, but did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure that that is the way I would go. I think the issue that people are concerned about is this issue of gerrymandering, which is very old concept, has been done for a very long time in this country, but the Republicans have taken it to a whole new level in creating districts where it is virtually impossible for their candidates to lose. And I think when we talk about election law as opposed to campaign finance law, I think the direction that we want to go is in exactly the opposite direction. This is touching on what Rick said a moment ago, making it easier for people to vote rather than harder for people to vote. And it's not just getting around these voter ID regulations that a number of states have imposed to make it hard for working people or low-income people to vote, but it's also concepts like maybe making Election Day a holiday, so that people don't have to vote after work, but can come in sometime during the day. Expanding same-day registration concepts so people can vote on Election Day, even if they're not registered, they can register on Election Day. There are a number of ideas out there, but the goal should be that as many people as possible are able to participate in America's political process, rather, as the Republicans would have it, as few as possible.
We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this. It's 10 minutes before the end. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you 10 minutes before the hour. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls. And Charles in Opelika, Florida. You're on the air, Senator Sanders.
Well, how's everybody doing today?
You're on the air, Charles.
Okay, great. Well, Senator Sanders, my thing is this. Is there any way that when we give donations to the Democratic National Party, that they can, start disbursing some of this money to, let's say, Free Speech TV, or any other type of entity that would give us a nationally televised, a network? Because I'm tired of listening about Bundy, only because we just had a big fight with let me just say it, Sean Hannity over Obamacare, and we don't get to savor our victories. We don't get to say, yeah, we were right. They always switch the narrative when they know that they were originally wrong, and they can't change anything about it. I don't want to hear about Paul Ryan's budget, because basically, when you start talking about tax cuts, you talk about taking away money that the Federal Reserve uses for Medicare, Medicaid, housing.
Right.
I'm sick of
that. Listen, Charles has raised a very important point. Let me just paraphrase, I think, where he's coming from. Tom and I earlier talked about the fact that 95% of talk radio in this country is right-wing or extreme right-wing. Why is that? When you have a country that is equally divided, or maybe more or less Republican than Democratic. How does that happen? And it happens because the right wing and the Republicans have been very, very smart about it. And Charles asked, I think, an excellent question. And by the way, Charles, something that some of us have been trying to work on. How does it happen that the Republican Party has its very own television network in Fox? Is it possible to build a progressive television network? Yeah, it is. Costs a lot of money to do those things. But it is possible to do it. And why is it that only 5% of talk radio is progressive? Well, we've got to do something about that as well. So Charles's point is absolutely right. And it is an issue that some of us are thinking on, and we got to do a lot more thinking. And more important than thinking, we got to do some action here.
Alan in Muskegon, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yeah.
Alan?
Senator,
Alan, you're on speakerphone. I can't hear you. Please pick up the phone.
I've called in before.
Alan, I'm sorry. You're going to have to call back in and not use the speakerphone. Let's see here. Russell in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator, two things. One, I wonder why you don't have anybody as a co-sponsor on your single-payer bill, people like Elizabeth Warren or Sherrod Brown. Why are they not signing on? And the second thing is, if you run for president as a Democrat, you're going to be asked the usual question, which is, if you don't get the nomination, will you support the nominee, which might put you in a position of supporting somebody you disagree with, someone like Hillary Clinton. So if you do run for president as a Democrat, will you support the eventual nominee if you don't get it? And two, why don't you have co-sponsors on your single-payer bill?
Well, let me answer the second one. There's a lot of ifs there, Russell. I don't know that I'm going to run. We don't know what's going to happen. I just don't want to get into speculation, what if. In terms of single payer, well, that's a good question. I think often in terms of sponsorship, if a bill is not going to advance significantly, and my single-payer bill is not going to advance significantly, I think if it was on the floor tomorrow, I would say we get, I'm guessing, 10 votes maybe, that's all. And for a variety of reasons, when you're not going to win a vote, people choose not to co-sponsor it. I brought that bill out, and I think maybe we'll have a hearing on it, because I think it's important for the American people to be able to see legislation which could provide health care to every man, woman, and child, and do it in a much more cost-effective way than what we have right now. But when I introduced that bill, Russell, I had no illusions that it's going to pass, nor did I have any illusions that we're going to have a whole lot of co-sponsors. But the reason it's out there is to give single-payer advocates something to rally around.
Scott in University Park, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, wasn't there something about, I'm pretty sure I heard on the show, about trying to elect Bernie for president?
Somebody had called in. We lost Scott. Somebody had called and asked if Senator Sanders was running for president. We've already covered that. Let's move to Alan in Muskegon, Michigan. Alan, you're on the air with Senator Sanders. What did you say, Shane? 2 minutes. Okay. We have just 2 minutes before the end of the hour here, Alan. Quick question for Senator Sanders.
Okay. I wanted to concentrate on the student debt problem.
Okay.
We don't hear very much about student debt in other countries. And that's because in most other countries, there is no student debt. I know, for example, in Malta, that not only do students, and this is from high school on, including college and graduate school, they get a stipend. They are paid to go to school. In Turkey, they take a test at the end of high school, and depending on their scores on those tests, they get free tuition to any university in Turkey.
Alan, we have just a minute left. Let's let Senator Sanders go off on
Alan
that.
is right. There are many countries around the world, France, Germany, many of the Scandinavian countries, who have made what I think is the very smart decision, and that is you capitalize on the intellectual capabilities of your people and not keep them from getting a college or graduate school education because of income limitations. So, I think that makes a lot of sense. And my hope is that we will, in this country, move in that direction. And by the way, Alan, you may remember 30 years ago, you had major universities in the United States of America, University of California, City College in New York, some of the best universities in the world where tuition was free. State colleges all over this country, including Vermont, where tuition was free or very, very low. And it is a real tragedy and a real blow against the middle class of this country that college costs have risen to such a degree. And I think we've got to stop moving. We've got to deal with that issue and make college affordable, pure and simple.
Investing in our intellectual infrastructure.
That's right.
Senator Sanders, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be with you.
And always. So we will be back with Anything Goes Friday in just a moment. Oh, actually, we'll be back with Greg Palast in just a